To Prime Edition. Tonight, Senator Kioria will spend the next 6 months out of Senate. We will tell you why in our bulletin tonight. And of course, also continue to tell you about the unfolding security situation in Lamu County. We have our fingers on the pulse of that story. Here are tonight's highlights. Wages of a loose stand. Nominated Senator Kioria suspended for 6 months over unsubstantiated claims of sexual harassment. One killed, houses torched in an Al-Shabaab attack in Lamu. And President Ruto meets Melinda Gates as Kenya explores new areas of partnership with her foundation. Byron Abuli is a sign language interpreter. Just a reminder that tonight we'll continue with the series we started last week. And of course, that is looking at President William Ruto's performance 1 year on. And our focus tonight is on governance. We have the Honorable Member for West Mugirango, the Honorable Stephen Mugaka, who will be with us in studio, as well as Ambassador Esther Warenga, a governance expert. Our focus is on the deliverables, or what the president has been able to deliver or not in 1 year in office, and particularly the focus being on governance. But to start us off, obviously a sign language interpreter tonight is Byron Abuli. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Tension is high in Witu Village, Lamu County, following a drone attack that left one person dead and several houses torched in a suspected Al-Shabaab attack that sparked protests as irate residents barricaded the Witu-Mokowe highway and lit bonfires demanding action by the police to stop frequent attacks. Cabinet Secretary for Interior Professor Kioria says the government deployed the government deployed an elite police squad to beef up security as they pursue the attackers, as our reporter Abdiaziz Hashim reports.
A multi-agency team has launched a manhunt for suspected Al-Shabaab militants alleged to have attacked a village in Witho area, Lamu County. The dawn attack left several families out in the cold as their houses were torched while one person was killed.
Na ilikuwa muda wa masaa ya saa 8. Ikawa watu wamekuja wakiwa wamejiami na mabunduki. Mimi nilikuwa kwa nyumba na watoto wangu 3.
Huyu mama amebaki kabisa, huyu mwenye hapa ameuawa. Hii kitu tunauliza serikali mtusaidie, manake hiki tumekuwa ikirudiwa.
Ukiangalia ndugu yetu hapa venye kitendo alichofanywa usiku wa leo ni kitendo ambacho hakiridhishi.
The attack sparked outrage among residents who took to the streets to protest the frequent attacks. Residents from Witho and the nearby Salama blocked the busy highway demanding heightened security.
Usalama tumeongojea, imekuwa ni donda sugu. Tumeteseka sana, tunalala msituni.
Tungetaka kuomba serikali ikuje hapa ingililie ili at least sisi tunalala kwa nyumba kama wale wa Kenya wengine.
According to Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kioria, the government has deployed a special unit to the region as well as the northern part of Kenya and upper coastal regions to pursue and neutralize the threat.
Siku zao zimehesabiwa kwa sababu tunaleta kikosi maalum, wale ambao hawacheki na magaidi na wale watu ambao ni wahalifu sugu.
Kindiki says the government will continue to equip officers with modern weapons and technology to enhance their capacity to deal with the criminals.
Kwa magaidi na wale wakora sugu, mambo ni matatu. Mambo ni mangapi? Mambo ni wangapi? Ya kwanza, wawachane na ugaidi. Ya pili, wahame Kenya warudi mahali walitoka. Kama hawataki kuachana na ugaidi ama kurudi mahali walitoka, tuwasafirishe ile safari ya mbali ya one way.
Abdiaziz Hashim for Prime Edition.
And of course, you remember in the same county there was a chopper crash yesterday that killed members of the Kenya Defence Forces. You're still following up on that story. Now, something shocking here. The Pharmacy and Poisons Board has initiated a mandatory recall of Tramadol paracetamol oral solution manufactured by Biofarms Limited, Kenya. following multiple market complaints on the quality of several batches. Health facilities and pharmacies have been directed to stop the distribution of a drug, and members of the public are also urged to return the product to their nearest healthcare facility.
The Pharmacy and Poisons Board Chief Executive Officer Fred Theo says that Tamedol oral solution 120 mg and 60 milliliters manufactured by Biopharma Limited had failed the prescribed market authorization requirements. Members of the public have been called upon to return the specified batches of the paracetamol. Those with the specified batch will be required to quarantine the product or return it to the suppliers. The board has also cracked the whip on Visipac 320 mg/ml manufactured by GE Healthcare Ireland and Visipac 320 mg/ml manufactured by GE Healthcare Shanghai. Preliminary investigations show that the drugs are in the market illegally. Healthcare facilities in possession of the affected products have been urged to immediately quarantine them and report to the Pharmacy and Poisons Board offices for further guidance and necessary action.
Symbolically flagging off the vehicles.
Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health on Wednesday flagged off 248 master trainers of trainers for primary care networks across the 47 counties. The trainers are set to enhance the capacity of counties in pushing for preventive measures through the primary care networks.
In our implementation of primary health care networks, these master trainers will actually be the one who will go to the counties. They will train the county management team, the sub-county management team, the in charges of the facility. We have a team called the multidisciplinary team so that we establish the 315 primary health care networks.
We are taking significant steps towards operationalization of all the 315 primary care networks across the country. We are leaving nobody behind. As of now, we have 2 counties, that is Kisumu and Garissa, that have fully established the operationalized PCNs with ongoing rollouts in other counties.
Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
The widow of the late Simon Kimani, the man who was on Tuesday found dead in a well alongside his mother, now says her husband may have been a member of a cult. Speaking to KBC Channel 1 on Wednesday, Mary Wanjiru alleged that her husband was indoctrinated by some unknown men, one of whom she says insulted her for refusing to join the cult.
Friends and family gather to condole with Mary Wanjiru, a mother of 3. Mary is mourning her husband Simon Kimani and her mother-in-law. The 2 were found dead in a 60-meter well in Ikino, Kiambu County on Tuesday. Mary Wanjiru says her husband left home on Monday and disappeared the entire day, only to be traced near Sasini's Kamundu Coffee Estate.
Vile aliletwa nyumbani kwa mamake, sijui na watu waliwaona wakiwa wamebebwa. Wakafika na ni kama walikuwa wametayarisha hadi chakula jioni. Mwenye akatoka na masauti zake na huko alisikia nduru lakini hakutoka. Ati mama alikuwa anasema asaidiwe, asiuliwe. Alikuwa anasema Kimani usiniwe.
She remembers Kimani as a caring husband who may have fallen victim to the doctrines of a cult.
Atapata na group, kama kuna group ya wababa wazee, nilikuwa naona mahusiano. Lakini kule happen hata kuna mmoja alihappen na kaniongelesha vibaya na nikamwambia sitaki kumwona na macho yangu. Mimi nikioga naenda kanisani, yeye akiamua kwenda kwenye ameenda mimi sitamfuata. Na hautajua juu kama umetoka asubuhi umeenda shughuli, utajua umeenda wapi.
Friends and relatives are puzzled by the deaths and some are choosing to stay away from the media scrutiny. Those brave enough to speak do so discreetly.
Hii shida imetushika, hata sisi tumeshikwa. Tunamwombea tu awe na nguvu, at least na tumeomba mwenye anaweza amsaidie juu ako na watoto 3.
Wanjiru says she has been left devastated by the double tragedy and is appealing to well wishers to stand in solidarity with the young family. Serafina Robi for Prime Edition.
Legislators are mulling over formulating a law to regulate the use, sale and advertising of synthetic nicotine that comes in form of e-cigarettes. The e-cigarettes, including vape, pens, e-liquids and flavors such as shisha, are said to have increased in consumption and popularity, exposing youth and minor children to health harm and moral decadence. According to the lawmakers, the e-cigarettes are classified as non-tobacco, hence lacking restrictions on use and promotion. Our reporter Kamcha Menza has details of the events that transpired in Parliament.
Kenyans who consume e-cigarettes, including vape pens, e-liquids and flavors, those who sell and those who promote, may face restrictions if a motion in Parliament seeking its regulation in use, sale and advertising is put into a bill, adopted and becomes law.
Matters relating to e-cigarettes are now fashionable, particularly for younger children. Mr. Speaker, there are a number of schools, at least I know a few in Nairobi, that have had to actually issue circulars to parents to warn them about their children bringing to school or engaging in vaping and the partaking of e-cigarettes.
I think in the new bill, and I want to encourage Senator Muma, that we must regulate it properly. We must have a way of penalizing anybody who is found with those drugs, under 18 in particular in schools.
Nominated Senator Catherine Muma, who moved the motion, says there is no restricted promotion on social media as well as use by adults, consequently attracting youth and minor children who increasingly engage in it.
Like the clubs, whereby this is what is so much trending. Like if you do not know how to use this gadget, then you're not a millennial, you're not up to the 2023 status and lifestyle.
Research around the world has shown that the e-cigarettes actually cause a lot of health harm.
Senators want the Ministry of Health and the Tobacco Control Board to establish rules to govern the production, sale and use and control the illicit trade of counterfeit products.
When the Tobacco Act was being enacted, the issue of e-cigarettes, access to e-cigarettes, was perhaps limited to a very, very small, actually an insignificant percentage of our population.
These cigarettes are all over, available in many of the outlets. So, Mr. Speaker, this motion is very timely because as a country, we need to respond to a crisis.
The final dangerous active reagent is nicotine. What do we do to make sure that nicotine does not affect children or people who are not willing to be affected or secondary smokers? I do support.
Meanwhile, Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary Florence Bore says the government will soon sign bilateral labour agreements with 5 countries and possible get job orders before end of year as government moves to address the high unemployment threats.
We are in the process of processing the bilateral labour agreements for 15 countries. But the ones that are at advanced stage is Oman, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Austria, and Germany. And within this year, we should be able to get job orders from those countries.
Kamcha Menza for Prime Edition.
Away from Parliament, the government has pledged to build public trust and prioritize data safety as it unveils the digital identification cards. Principal Secretary for Immigration and Citizen Services, Julius Bitok, speaking at a meeting with stakeholders, among them civil societies, said the government will ensure the process is inclusive and transparent.
The government has pledged to work with all stakeholders to ensure successful unveiling of the third generation digital identification. Addressing members of the press after meeting with different stakeholders, among them civil societies, Immigration Principal Secretary Julius Bitok noted that even as the government works towards modernization of the current registration system, no one will be discriminated against.
There has been quite a number of attempts to implement a national digital ID.
But this time around, we are saying we are not going to go alone as government. We want all the stakeholders, all the partners, including the civil society, including the religious groups, including the private sector. We are saying we all have to come together to be able to implement this very important national digital identity.
He at the same time assured the government's commitment to protecting Kenyans' data by issuing a tamper-proof document.
We are here to build public confidence. We are here to guarantee the country that the document we are bringing on board is a secure document, and it will be an all-inclusive document that is going to eliminate marginalization of communities.
The sentiments were echoed by human rights organizations present who committed to joining hands in public education to create awareness. The civil society, who had initially threatened to frustrate the process, noted such engagement are critical for effective third-generation card registration.
As human rights organizations, we are very keen to make sure that the design of the UPI and the third generation digital ID, that it is based on three principles. The first is public safety, ensuring that data protection, that your privacy as Kenyans is protected by design, not by accident, but by design.
For Prime Edition, I'm Zainab Said.
In the corridors of justice, a Liberian national who is among the 12 suspects being investigated for 1 billion shillings gold transaction has finally been released on bond. The suspect, Ronald Johnson, was released by Milimani Court Senior Principal Magistrate Gilbert Shikwe on a bond of 200,000 shillings plus 2 Kenyan sureties.
The suspects who were arrested on 6th of September the year 2023 were held in various police stations before they were produced in court, where the investigating officer sought 21 days custodial to enable them complete investigations. Ronald Johnson and another foreigner, Nelson Fruche, a Cameroonian, were held in police custody until they were produced in court last week. The Cameroonian was granted a bond of 300,000 shillings with one surety, whereas the Liberian was denied bail on grounds that he did not possess valid travel documents. Elsewhere, a Milimani court has ordered a Kenya shillings 47 million criminal case facing 3 businessmen to start afresh. Senior Principal Magistrate Bernard Ochoi said the prosecution has indicated to the court that one of the accused persons was charged later when the matter had proceeded, with one witness tendering her evidence. The accused, David Kahi Ambuku, Collins Mushera Imbai and Cedric Belinda Imbai, are said to have obtained the money from Faith Nafula Kibet and Wang Mayong by falsely pretending that the money will be used for the supply of 680 litres of Pramitol to be supplied to the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection and 1,500 anti-lock jumping kits to be supplied to the Ministry of Interior.
This case will start de novo, noting that the third accused has been brought in after the testimony of PW1. The accused persons will be supplied with a copy of the consolidated charge sheet and any other document which has not been supplied so far. We'll mention the matter on 4th of October to confirm the supply of the documents to the third accused.
The offences, according to the prosecution, were committed on diverse dates of 26th of November the year 2021 and 21st of January the year 2022. The court set the hearing of their criminal case for 31st of October the year 2023. Michael Moniga for Prime Edition.
At least 20 million vehicles have used the Nairobi Expressway in the last 1 year since its inception. This is according to Expressway Chief Executive Officer Steve Zhao. Zhao says the road project has eased congestion and helped market Kenya as an investment destination. The 1-year anniversary of the Expressway comes amid plans to create an exit on the Expressway into the city centre. Pauline Nasimir has the details.
The Nairobi Expressway is celebrating its first anniversary since it was launched with a vision to ease congestion along the busy Nairobi-Mombasa highway. The multi-billion road project has played a major role in boosting the country's economy, creating job opportunities,
The company has given us that privilege to work and also to do duties that are delegated unto us.
I'm really happy for Moja to have given me that opportunity to be able to carry out and just do something that I love doing.
And easing the movement of goods and services.
It helps us avoid the traffic jam.
It's much faster than when I was here 12 years ago.
We used to stay here in the jam, unajikuta mpaka jioni. But today we can celebrate that this expressway, wow.
Nairobi Expressway Chief Executive Officer Steve Zhao says Kenyans have embraced the use of the expressway.
Up to now, after 1 year operation, the average traffic volume right now in working days has already reached to 65,000 traffic volume per day.
He added that construction of a new expressway exit is underway that will connect motorists to the city center.
Right now we are constructing another exit, which exactly in the town center, which is opposite of Parliament.
The expressway has so far employed over 500 people.
That's like between the youth, between 20 years to 30 years.
As Belt and Road Initiative turns 10 years, its economic benefit has been felt by expressway users, easing transportation and creating job opportunities. Reporting for KBC Channel 1 from Lolongo, I'm Pauline Nasimiu.
Let's shift focus to what is happening in the counties. And the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, has embarked on streamlining operations of nightclubs in Kakamega to ensure entertainment joints adhere to noise pollution rules. Over 20 businesses have been closed for contravening the law and causing noise pollution. 20 people were arrested in entertainment joints where the noise levels were above acceptable limits. More details in the county briefs.
NEMA County Director Joseph Maniafu said they'll take action against all businesses that do not comply with the environmental laws and regulations.
This noise has caused a lot of disturbance and annoyance to the people in that they're not able to have a remorseful night for them to undertake their activities. And therefore today we are doing an operation to the various nightclubs and churches in Kakamega County. We have mostly arrested the DJs, supervisors and managers to these clubs.
When they have chased the owners of and the operators of those clubs and hotels, they leave the doors open, and then the gangs, the looters, organized by NEMA, go in and loot everything. Businessmen on a Friday lost in excess of 30 million in Kakamega town.
Meanwhile, the national and county governments have been urged to play a lead role in rehabilitation of street children. This was the clarion call at Kieni Kiantere grounds during a celebration ceremony of 30 rehabilitated street boys.
Tunaomba wahisani wema wakuje wasaidie watoto. Tunaomba makanisa watokelezee, wakuje tufanye hii kazi, tuondoe watoto kwa street. It is not healthy kwa watoto wakiwa kwa street.
Elsewhere, boda riders and small-scale traders have decried high cost of fuel and are appealing to the government to reduce the cost of fuel.
Hizi tunaona ukiweka 200 unapata 300. Ilhali mbeleni ulikuwa unaweka 200 unapata 600, 800. So imekuwa ngumu sana. Actually unakuta mtu anaenda na nyumbani na 300, 500. Wengine wanalipa nduthi.
And a student from Nyanguru village in Nyakoe ward is stranded home owing to lack of school fees. She was admitted to Tom Mboya University. Josephine Osongo, who scored a C+ from Kanunda Mixed School, is appealing to well-wishers to assist her join the university.
Niliitwa Tom Mboya. Nilifaa kureport date 4 but hadi saa niko nje. So mkinisaidia nitataka nisome. Saidie familia yangu.
And former Migori Deputy Governor Muita Mahanga has been eulogized as a man of unwavering honesty and integrity during his tenure in public office. Mahanga, who served as Migori Deputy Governor, passed away in September 9th and will be laid to rest on Thursday.
That for the next 2 days, our flag should fly half-mast because we are mourning as a county. Establish culture. They establish organizational ways of honoring their departed.
For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
And the 78th UN General Assembly is ongoing in New York, and Kenya at the same time is exploring new areas of partnership with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, including in the digitization of government services and climate change projects. Speaking during the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's Goalkeepers 2023 forum that tracks the implementation of Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, in New York, United States, the head of state, President William Ruto, also said the government is considering intensified agricultural collaboration with a focus on targeted interventions and agricultural practices that will enhance farm productivity and boost farmers' incomes. The forum agreed to advocate for collective climate solutions to drive a positive climate change conversation.
And we came to the conclusion at our Africa Climate Summit that it is no longer possible to discuss development, SDGs, and climate separately, that these are one and the same. And if there is something we learned from the COVID, is that there is nobody who is safe. We can all be in trouble. We've had too much focus on the problem rather than on what possibilities there exist for us to craft innovative, creative ways of getting to the solution.
And so we really do have to recommit to the SDGs and pick the things where we get the best impact for the finite money that's available.
Of course, heads of state and government continue to address delegates who have attended the 78th General Assembly. President William Ruto is scheduled to address the delegates tomorrow in the morning session, but the morning session is in the US. Here in Kenya, it will be tomorrow around 9 p.m. or 10. That is when he addresses the delegates, and this will be his second address to the UN General Assembly since his election last year. Now, domestic workers play a crucial role in running households every day. This week on Cinemas and Theatre, we focus on Suffering Mwema, a Kenyan movie based on true stories of a Kenyan domestic worker who shares the challenge, or rather the challenges they go through in their line of duty.
I'm so sorry. Sorry for you.
Suffering Mwema is a film produced by David Kelly Ojambo. It's a film that aims at highlighting the day-to-day life of domestic workers.
You, what are you doing here? Go and prepare me coffee.
It's a TV series that sheds light on the challenges that domestic workers face in their line of duty, as well as the path that led the women to choose making a living as domestic workers.
Suffering Mwema is a movie acted here in Kenya by Kenyan househelps. It tried to show the world what actually happens with the househelp, the life that they live in the employer's house, and also their background, what they have gone through, the trauma, the challenges that they have faced, that they have made it hard for them to make it in life.
You are part of my family, and I value you also because you are the one who do everything here.
Part 1 depicts the life after one has been employed as a domestic worker, the highs and the lows. Part 2 depicts her childhood, the suffering she underwent, and the decisions and choices that led her to her current situation. But what is the inspiration behind Suffering Mwema?
What actually happens? What leads them actually to be in these houses, and the background of what happened in their life, lack of school fees, how they were mistreated or they were tricked. Some of them were very bright, but due to these challenges made them not to reach their goals, the full potential of their goals.
The producer notes that there are over 6 million domestic workers in the country, and thus the need to highlight their day-to-day lives.
The problem that this lady faces while in the house of the employer, the problems include they are sexually molested with their husband or the male people in those houses. The second problem, they are mistreated by the boss ladies in those houses. For example, they sleep in a deplorable condition, where they sleep for example, in this movie, they are sleeping down the stairs, where even the dogs cannot sleep. You see, the salary they are getting is very minimum.
Wow! Kelly points out that the film gives an opportunity to domestic workers to showcase their talent as it is dramatized by domestic workers.
To showcase their talents, they can help this country economically. For example, in movies, in songs, in many arts. They are not given time to do those things. That's why I came up with this idea of bringing together these households, and out of them, it is acted by them. We agree that let them show the world what.
He says filming has not been a walk in the park.
We have dramatized part 1 and part 2, and we have shot some like part 3 and 4. Even they reach around part 8 there, but due to financial challenge, maybe they're the one that will make it hard for us to show the world what actually happens.
Kelly calls on Kenyans to support the art of filmmaking in the country.
The future of film in Kenya is very bright, so long as we believe in ourselves.
What have you been doing? What have you been doing?
Jackie Wimbiru, Cinemas and Theatres.
Cinemas and Theatre takes us to a very first break on Prime Edition. Business is up next with Warimo Jenga.
Na Lucky Game ikiwa ni ngurumo ya pikipiki sasa inaelekea mitaani. Ikiwa mshindi wetu wa leo wa pikipiki ni Joseph Kamau. Delivery tutaifanya. Simefika Ruiru, nani yako? Ogio. Kifungu ndio hiyo yako.
Nilikuwa nimejaribu siku kama 3 hivi. Nimeshida hii pikipiki Honda.
Amekabidhiwa mpaka stakabadhi zote. Yote inafanyika katika Lucky Game. Mita na ta 570. Shida pesa moto.
The clarion call is that, coming to the show here in Nairobi, coming to the other shows, as we said earlier, and we are certain that you pick quite a lot of new things that, of course, improve your productivity, at the farm level, at the business level. And therefore, we assure you, coming on Monday, coming on Tuesday, run through Sunday, and there is a lot for you to pick. And as I said earlier, then we'll be able to align ourselves in making follow-ups just to ensure then we implement what we picked up.
But Lord knows that I don't want to be lonely tonight. They don't know, and I said they don't know. Boba. She's not here for a night of day. She loves it when the music plays. All the bridges are burned. There's still not one to love. It's like you no learn. You have to be a brother's keeper.
Ikitoka nje ya hii gate usifungulie mtu mwingine yoyote.
Ulitoka hapa kwangu na hasira hadi ukanivunjia paka mlango, tena umerudi wewe na hasira. Nikueleweje mimi?
Achana na mimi.
Amefukuzana? Amfukuzana na babako. Kaeke begi uende jikoni ukapike.
Yaani mimi nitokako? Wewe unketi tu hapo. Alafu mimi ninge jikoni nikupikie. Twende.
Baba twende. Zito atakwenda kanijua mimi ni nani.
County Government of Turkana welcomes you to the Ehale Center in Lodwar Town for the 7th edition of the Turkana Cultural and Tourism Festival. From 12th to the 14th of October 2023. Come, experience the origin of mankind with its unmatched beauty from the beaches of Lake Turkana to the oil wells of Lokichar. Live on Channel 1, Radio Taifa and KBC Turkana Service.
At the day's business news, my name is Wairu Mujenga. Now, the much-delayed bus rapid transit system has received a major boost after Kenya signed an 8.7 billion shillings agreement with the United States Millennium Change Corporation. The funding will go towards financing the acquisition of electric buses for Thika Road line along also the line 2. President William Ruto, who witnessed the funding deal in New York, USA, said the project will help Kenya deal with endemic traffic congestion within the Nairobi metropolitan area.
The government is accelerating the establishment of an integrated, efficient, effective and sustainable public transport system under the Bus Rapid Transit System Master Plan.
Nairobi has 5 million people during the day and 4 million at night. So there's a whole 1 million people who come in and out of Nairobi every day. That poses a very significant challenge on the transport infrastructure.
We see that Nairobi is one of the fastest urbanizing regions, or cities, I should say, city region in the world. Certainly Kenya must have reaped the benefits of a very strong growth rate. But undoubtedly, it may have caused some challenges.
The construction of the BRT system has faced major delays due to lack of funds, design approvals, and government bureaucracies.
The mass bus transport system is a very important component. I think already a lot of work has gone into getting the bus lanes already. So this threshold will give us the ability to conclude.
Earlier in 2023, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja and Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen both agreed on the need to end traffic jams in the capital by accelerating the implementation of the 5 BRT lines within the Nairobi metropolis. This meant fast-tracking the stalled bus rapid transit system projects such as the Thika Road Line 2 BRT project, which in August last year, a Chinese company that was building the BRT corridor vacated after financial constraints. 3 billion shillings was required to complete the corridor between Kasarani and Kenyatta National Hospital. The lines are named after Kenya's Big 5 wild animals found in various national parks, namely Line 1 Ndovu, Line 2 Simba, Line 3 Chui, Line 4 Kifaru, and Line 5 Nyati.
We are also working on a rail system around Nairobi. We will be maybe having a conversation with you. I think we have already built about 28 stations out of a possible 36, and there will be a conversation, and we are happy that this threshold is now being rolled out, and it will give us possibilities of what else can we look at to make transportation that much more easy.
According to the Millennium Change Corporation, MCC, Tuesday's signing was after several years of collaboration on the design of projects. The program comprises 4 projects: the Integrated Transport Planning Project, the First and Last Mile Connections Project, the Detailed Land Use Project, and the Blended Finance for Bus Rapid Transit Project.
Where pockets of people may feel disconnected, challenged by the transportation system. So in many ways, that's what this threshold program is all about. It seeks to enhance urban connectivity by strengthening the Nairobi Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, which I think you will call NAMATA, and also the Nairobi City County Government.
The threshold program seeks to assist Kenya in addressing limited connectivity in urban areas, a critical constraint to inclusive economic growth.
Now, the Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy is calling for realignment of operational processes by postal and logistics firms in the East African region in line with technological advancements. Now, CS Eliud Owalo says the government is resolute in its mission to propel Kenya to a transformational digital economy.
The rapid growth of e-commerce has posed a new challenge in the operations of postal and logistic firms to reshape how they approach package delivery. As such, the Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo says there is need for creativity to leverage the network to satisfy the growing demand for last-mile delivery.
The surge in e-commerce has underscored the pivotal significance of the postal and courier sector. It is an industry on the threshold of unprecedented change, where innovation is the key to fulfilling futures.
Speaking during the second East African Communication Organization Post and Logistics Forum in Mombasa, Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo noted that there was need for those in the public sector to be proactive in their approach in order to be equal competitors in the private sector entities.
We cannot continue with the traditional business models that we have been used to in the postal sector. It calls for strategic agility and maneuverability. We have to reorient our business models to survive or to remain relevant in the operational environment, ladies and gentlemen.
The CS pledged support for a conducive digital-driven environment in Kenya, where both the public and private sector organizations will thrive.
This industry, ladies and gentlemen, is the livelihood of e-commerce in Kenya and the broader East African region, for that matter. And it therefore demands our unwavering commitment and attention.
Trevor Nyende for Prime Edition.
Now, the trading licenses of 64 coffee buying companies will not be renewed for failure to trade on the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. Nairobi Coffee Exchange Chair Peter Gekonyo says the coffee auction only attracts an average of 25 buyers weekly, despite hundreds of buyers being licensed. This is affecting the price of coffee at the auction due to limited competition for the available coffee.
The government has been keen on instituting reforms in the coffee subsector, with a proposed review of coffee value chain players' licensing being at the center of the reforms. Reviewing of the coffee licensing regime, the government says will reduce in trading in coffee sales by reducing multiple licensing. The Nairobi Coffee Exchange says it will not renew the licenses of 64 coffee buyers for failing to participate at the auction for an extended period of time.
121 licensed coffee buyers by the Agriculture and Food Authority for the season of 2023-2024, but only 58 have registered at the NCE to buy from the auction. This is a major concern.
On average, only 25 buyers participate on each auction day, despite the Agriculture and Food Authority licensing 122 buyers. NCE says the low buyers' participation has affected coffee prices in the country due to low bidding competition.
Low participation by buyers affects the competition in the bidding of the coffee at the auction, as this is where 80% of the coffee of the Kenya coffee is traded.
The Nairobi Coffee Exchange says it has paid 97.7 million shillings to coffee farmers through the direct settlement system a month after it was operationalized.
The reports that we have, yes, that money has already been deposited in the farmer's account in the form of US dollars.
Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Now we move to the Lake region, where Migori County is set to increase rice and edible oil production following the launch of the Migori Aggregation and Industrial Park worth 500 million shillings. The park, which will be funded by both the national and the county government, will upon completion employ over 30,000 people, including farmers and laborers.
Last year, the government announced the construction of the County Aggregation and Industrial Park, which are aimed at unlocking the industrial potential of counties. Migori County is one of the 14 counties that have benefited from the aggregation and industrial park in the country that aims to address employment opportunities as well as boost the economic standards in the country. Trade CS Moses Kuria said the strategy is aimed at transforming the region into a major producer of rice and oil products, thereby reducing the needs for imports. He stressed the importance of ramping up rice production in Nyanza to meet the national demand for the products. Additionally, he highlighted the region's potential for oil production, urging people to cultivate palm trees, the move that will reduce the annual shillings 150 billion spent on importing edible oil.
Tutakuwa na edible oil factory hapa. Mafuta ambayo mimi nitapikia nayo huko kwetu Katundu itatoka hapa Migori. Na nyinyi mweze kupata pesa. Na nataka muunge mkono gavana wenu.
He further announced the establishment of a gold processing facility within the aggregation and industrial park to benefit small-scale artisanal miners, as well as the creation of cotton ginnery to promote cotton farming in Nyanza.
Ile processing ya hiyo dhahabu itafanywa hapa Nyatika katika industrial park. Na wale watu wamezoea kukuja kuchukua dhahabu yenu, wanawalipa bei ovyo. Wajue sasa shindano yao iko wapi.
The aggregation and industrial park will act as a collection center, sorting, degrading, and distributing of goods. Edna Murungi, reporting for Prime Edition.
Company Toshiba has rolled out a data storage program dubbed Build Your Own Data Center that aims to equip businesses with the tools they need to adapt to a data-driven future while optimizing costs and performance. Now, Toshiba Gulf FZE Vice President Santosh Varghese says the move will allow enterprise clients enhance their business server storage systems and software through cloud storage capabilities while leveraging high-capacity hard drives.
As technology landscapes evolve each day, companies are faced with the critical decision of whether to migrate entirely to the cloud or continue maintaining on-premises data centers. While cloud adoption is still on the rise, many enterprises are finding value in balancing the two, a strategy known as a hybrid approach. To bridge this, Toshiba says it has incorporated a number of initiatives where channel partners and system integrators will be trained on how to use and integrate different technologies to build data center projects across Africa.
The research predicts by 2025, 180 zettabytes of data will be produced. That's because the way we work, the way we consume data, the way we produce data is all started changing from 2020, right? We have telework, we have streaming of data to watch Netflix or Amazon Prime. So that is a big data generations. We have corporates using data for business decisions. So that's another thing.
Further, they say measures have been put in place to raise awareness and provide training opportunities to equip sales and pre-sales teams belonging to system integrators and enterprises with in-depth knowledge about enterprise-level storage, especially with regard to high-capacity, purpose-built hard drives.
You can keep on growing your data center as your demand grows. So this will help a total cost of reduction by 30%. When you buy a conventional data center, everything ready-made, rather than building it, Toshiba has got the components, got the technology, and we are creating an ecosystem where we teach system integrators and business providers, the IT business providers, how to create this data center.
Nduta Mukami for Prime Edition.
Now that story by Nduta Mukami.
A very good evening to you. My name is Daniel Wahome and welcome to tonight's sport. And we start with the women's national soccer team, the Harambee Starlets, who have arrived in Cameroon ahead of their upcoming two-legged 2024 Africa Cup Nations first leg qualifier against their host. Should Harambee Starlets emerge the aggregate winners of the two-legged qualifier, they will face either Gabon or Botswana in the second round, scheduled for the 27th to the 5th of November 2023.
The 23 players under the tutelage of Beldino Demba held their training Wednesday as they aim to register desirable results in the preliminary round. After the first leg in Douala, the second leg is set to be played in Nairobi on Tuesday next week. In Cameroon, Starlets head coach Beldin has assembled a squad of experienced and youthful players who include Greek side Nes Atromitos goalkeeper Anne Dikundu, Simba Queens midfielder Vivian Corazon, and Beijing Jingtan forward Gentrix Rikangwa, as well as Ulizi Starlets Mercy Airo, among others. Should Harambee Stars emerge as the aggregate winners of the two-legged qualifier, they will face either Gabon or Botswana in the second round, scheduled between November 27th and December 5th this year. The victor of the second round will secure automatic qualification for the 2024 Africa Women Cup of Nations due in Morocco.
Na Lucky Game ikiwa ni ngurumo ya pikipiki sasa inaelekea mitaani. Ikiwa mshindi wetu wa leo wa pikipiki ni Joseph Kamau. Delivery tutaifanya. Simefika Ruiru, nani yako? Ogio. Kifungu ndio hiyo yako.
Nilikuwa nimejaribu siku kama 3 hivi. Nimeshida hii pikipiki Honda.
Amekabidhiwa mpaka stakabadhi zote. Yote inafanyika katika Lucky Game. Mita na ta 570. Shinda pesa moto.
She is a serious manipulator.
Mwanangu kuketa asikujalishe.
Naomba uwe na uhakika na hao unaonaambia. Maana sitaki kufanya mambo yakanitia aibu bure. Are you sure?
Siwezi tu kurupuka nikaja kwa hata kama nataka.
Wewe kazi gani unafanya na Kate?
Baby, you need to understand this. Moja wapo kazi zangu pale ofisini ni kumchunguza Kate. Ni lipi ile uko nalo ambalo hutaki watu wasikie?
Make calls about the hospital. Find out something about him.
There is no wealth without health, and it all begins here. And regular exercise. Your Health Show brings you an array of health information to keep you informed and healthy. Real people and real stories.
Kurasa wa wadi baada ya siku 2-3 nikapelekwa theater. Wakasema wametoa nyama upande wa nyuma. Walipopima hiyo nyama walipata ni kansa.
Nasema wewe rafiki yangu sasa kwa umri ulio uko nao kama hivi unafanya na mama Fumbo wewe. Uliyapata wapi? Na mimi namwambia mimi mwenyewe pia ninashangaa.
Join me, Marie Yambo, from the laboratories to the theaters as we feature cutting-edge technology in healthcare diagnosis and treatment. Only on KBC Channel 1.
And welcome back to Prime Edition Sports. Now, Kenya National Rally Championship leader Jasmine Chana wants to end the 2023 season on a high. And this is at next month's 7th round at Ilbisil, Kajiado County. The rally driver, dubbed the Iceman, lost the coveted KNRC title to Karan Patel in a home stretch last year, and is one of the few drivers in Kenya to win virtually all the lower tier championships in Kenya.
Chana needs to get his mitts on the coveted title on the weekend of October 7th to 8th during the Kenya Motorsport Club round to finish 5th with at least 17 points that will hand him the unassailable point score with 2 events to spare. The Elite KNRC overall title is nevertheless what has been missing from his bucket list, but the Nairobi-based auto technician hopes to ruffle feathers in Bissell with his trusted Japanese mark. Chana goes into the 7th leg with a massive 84-point advantage over youngster Jeremiah Wahome, who has 87 points after 6 rounds. Chana and Wahome have 2 wins apiece, while Carl Tundo and Karen Patel have 1 each. If Iceman finishes 5th in the next leg, then he will have sealed the title with 188 points, which neither Wahome or third-placed Makrai Kimathi can surpass.
And from motorsport to the boxing ring, where US's boxer Sean Miller will take on Kenya's James Nyariki in this year's edition of the Rise Above Fight Night, set to be held this weekend at the Charter Hall in Nairobi. The competition, organized by Solid Rock Promotions, will feature a number of boxers from across the globe aiming to bag this year's title. Denzel Onyango will take on Ignatius Diego in the first fight, while Martin Achebi will take on John Juma. The Democratic Republic of Congo's Lucien Botumbe will lock horns with Uganda's champion Dennis Ouma. More than 30 boxers will take part in this year's edition, with winners bagging medals and cash prizes in different weight classes.
Tunaomba mashabiki wengi waweze kushangilia kijana wetu ambaye baada ya hapo hii Supreme Light Heavy ya Africa akiweza kushinda hapo, yeye atakuwa one of the best ranked boxers katika Afrika na dunia.
I'll be fighting this coming Saturday of the 23rd of September. Venue, we're fighting at Charter Hall. Fight starts at 5 p.m. and kindly please, I urge my fans, show up, show support to your guy, this tiger.
And away from the local scene is that all eyes will be on the UEFA Champions League tonight, and Manchester City begin their title defense when they face Red Star Belgrade. They started their title defense with a 3-1 win over Red Star Belgrade. In other matches, Newcastle United marked their return to the competition after a 20-year absence with a barren draw at AC Milan, while Barcelona comfortably beat Royal Antwerp by 5-0.
Major goalless draw at San Siro Stadium against AC Milan as Nick Pope saved shots from Olivier Giroud and Theo Hernandez to hand what could prove to be a valuable point.
Clear Loftus-Cheek trying to help it back into the fray for Giroud, and his effort hits Pope, and Milan get the first corner.
In other matches, Kylian Mbappe provided a breakthrough for Paris Saint-Germain after converting a penalty in the 49th minute before Moroccan defender Achraf Hakimi sealed the win over Borussia Dortmund.
May yet pay off. Hakimi waltzing his way through, and it's a familiar face.
Barcelona went 3 goals ahead after just 23 minutes thanks to strikes from Joao Felix and Robert Lewandowski, plus an own goal from Gel Betali. Gavi added a 4th before Felix got his 2nd after the break to give Barcelona a perfect start.
Jules Koundé well forward. Rafinha sends it over, and at the far post, it's headed home by João Felix. His 2nd goal of the night, Barcelona's 5th.
In tonight's UEFA Champions League fixtures, Bayern Munich will host Manchester United as Arsenal play PSV.
35 years and 29 days. Part of a very successful night for Xavi.
And that's the sport for tonight. Catch more tomorrow with Bernard Okumu. And as I leave, I'll tell you, we'll be having an interview. Remember that we've been keeping up with the Kenya Kwanza administration 1 year on. What has been the government structure for the Kenya Kwanza administration? And tonight, I'll go ladies first. We've got Ambassador Esther Waringa, who's the President of Public Service Governance. She's going to be in studio with John Jacob Kioria. And also we've got the member of the National Assembly for West Mugirango constituency, the Honorable Stephen Mogaka. So John Jacob Kioria has got that conversation going. Immediately, Mr. Wahome says, I'm on my way home.
To get into a conversation in studio, I have the Honorable Steve Mogaka, like Wahome says, Member of Parliament for West Mugirango, and I also have Ambassador Esther Waringa, who was a presidential candidate, by the way, in 2022, says she wants to run again, but that she's the founder and president, Public Service Governance, an institution promoting good governance. But before we start, let's take a very short breather and then come back.
Na Lucky Game, ikiwa ni ngurumo ya pikipiki sasa inaelekea mitaani. Ikiwa mshindi wetu wa leo wa pikipiki ni Joseph Kamau. Delivery tutaifanya. Zimefika Ruiru, nami yako. Ogio. Kifungu ndio hiyo yako.
Nilikuwa nimejaribu siku kama 3 hivi. Nimeshida hii pikipiki Honda.
Amekabidhiwa mpaka stakabadhi zote. Yote inafanyika katika Lucky Game. Mita na star 570. Shinda pesa moto.
Vijana chapakazi wenye nguvu za ziada.
My youth, uko na talent ya kusing, spoken word, kucompose jingles ama any other unexploited artistic talent. Gava through Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy na KBC sasa wame come up na project ya kupromote usanii called Studio Mashinani. Hizi ni studios ziko grassroots and they are fitted with high quality state-of-the-art equipment where you can produce quality audio and video music content for free. What's more, wana offer mentorship na talanta yako itakuwa promoted on KBC Channel 1 TV, Y254 na radio stations za KBC. Tembelea Studio Mashinani huko Comarox, Langata, Sauti House Mombasa, Kirwara huko Gatanga, Kitui next to Manyanyoni Chiefs Camp na Kisumu City wako hapo KBC station. Usilalie talent. This is your chance to commercialize and popularize your talent through Studio Mashinani.
Naweza kuchapa mpaka na nipatie receipt. Hata bwana.
Sasa hata umpi nafasi, kwani unajua nini atasema?
Ploti ni yangu, karatasi mimi niko nayo.
Ukija ukakuta ploti si yake,
ananipatia karatasi fake.
Kanairo kunaendanga.
Wana karatasi?
Baada ya ploti.
How much?
Acha nipatia.
Unaacha kula ile unakula na nyamaji.
Wewe hata uogopi mbele ya koti. Mzee wewe nakaa ni mkora wewe.
No, si mimi, huyu ndio mkora. Huyu ndio alinipatia.
Wewe unakula kwa conman na unakula kwa ule mwenye plot.
Hiyo ndio kazi ya plot.
Welcome back. You're watching the Prime Edition. Time for us to get into our interview. But before then, nominated Senator Gloria Oroba will be out of the Senate for the next 6 months after senators okayed her suspension. In a heated debate, senators adopted a report by the Powers and Privileges Committee, which recommended her suspension for failing to prove allegations of sexual harassment, corruption, and favorism.
The presiding speaker today will be the deputy speaker.
The heated debate in Parliament saw divisions along gender lines as senators debated the report by the Powers and Privilege Committee that recommended Senator Gloria Oroba be suspended for 6 months. while a section of women senators argued the 6-month suspension was too punitive. Male senators took issue with Senator Gloria Orwoba's remarks, which they claim were in bad taste.
We cannot banish a member for 6 months in this house because of maybe she did not express herself in a way that we expect.
Person who makes an allegation has the responsibility to prove that allegation. He who alleges must prove.
All we want from her is for her to come and apologize to the House, apologize to an innocent clerk.
The first-time senator nominated by UDA party had accused the Senate clerk Jeremiah Nyegenye of sexual harassment, corruption and favoritism, but failed to provide evidence to the Senate Powers and Privilege Committee.
Ile maneno ambayo ilifanywa hatujaiongelea sana, lakini yaliyosemwa tunaiongelea sana. Na kumbaliana na adhabu, lakini adhabu ya kufukuza mtoto msichana miezi 6 kwa sababu ya kauli aliyosema, sisi wenye tuko hapa ni mangapi tumesema ambayo hayafai na bado tuko hapa tukiwa naume.
We have had a lot of reports even in the media of women being sexually harassed. And right now to the public, what they see is a young assertive woman who rose and defended against sexual harassment.
Attempts by Mombasa Senator Mohamed Faki to amend the report by reducing the duration of her suspension from 6 months to 40 days flopped, sealing her fate. Gishoke Washira, Prime Edition.
And that is the fate that has befell Senator Gloria Orwoba. We'll be dealing with issues of governance around 1 year of President Ruto's presidency. But before we do that, a quick one. Mheshimiwa Mogaka, you're a member of parliament, so you're well asked to tell us about the Powers and the Privileges Committee. Without appearing to interfere with the matters of the other house, your quick reaction towards that, do you think it was an overreaction that you suspend a senator for 6 months?
Certainly yes. Remember, Jacob, this is a country whose constitution allows a freedom of expression. And when that freedom is exercised within the precincts of the august house, that is privileged. However badly it beats the ears of those who do not want to hear, it is good that Senator Gloria expressed herself. She has been tried by a jury which is extremely sexually insensitive. And since the rules of the House say it is numbers that weigh on any decision, she will have to deal with the 6-month suspension. But of what value then is it keeping her out for 6 months? I would have urged that she'd be given an opportunity to tender her apology if she was found to be wrong. But if in her conviction, that is what she perceived to be to have been subjected to, she is entitled to say what it is, and issues of sexual harassment are not things that you can get hard evidence to put on the table. So, and that is not a court of law, but I think the Senate has overreacted. It should have relooked at these allegations. They may not have concrete evidence, but the Swahili say lisemwalo lipo kama halipo basilaja.
Ambassador Orenga, a quick reaction to that, because I think you saw some of the female members allege gender bias in the decision taken today by the Powers and the Privileges Committee and finally the Senate.
I would say it's not about actually biasness. It's about who you are and how you present yourself as a leader. And this is an example, even on the to the leadership that we are seeing in the country, throwing words here and there, not realizing and remembering that we have chapter 6 to look at, and we have chapter 6 to realize, and we have chapter 6 to implement. So even members of parliament, the way the senator handled herself: 1, integrity; 2, I think a little bit, the women of Kenya, some of them were not comfortable. And as a leader, the bottom line was she supposed to handle herself that way? So according to me, I think it's a lesson learned to many of our leaders, including our women leaders, and we do not want to shame. We want women to handle themselves with dignity, integrity, and as role models in the Republic of Kenya. Yeah.
So you're saying that action was justified?
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Quite an interesting one. Let's get to President William Ruto's governance style. Honorable Mogaka, having been in the corridors of justice, I want us to start with how the president has handled the judiciary 1 year since he came into office as an issue of governance and ensuring there is access to justice as the president. How do you think he has fared on that front?
Thank you. That's a very good question to me, who sits in the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, whose business is the justice in this country. I think President Ruto has performed extremely well on his part as the president in enabling the judiciary to discharge its responsibilities. If we can look at how President Ruto has performed vis-a-vis his predecessor, whose hand was heavy on the judiciary, who was vindictive on the judiciary's decisions, was getting personal on the judges who were discharging their duties, by and large, President Ruto has done extremely well by giving the judiciary first, its financial autonomy, secondly, by obeying the bulk of the decisions and judgments coming from the judiciary, including the disbandment of the 50 CASs. So by and large, the president has treated the judiciary as another arm of government which plays its role under the Constitution, and its decisions bind the executive, including the presidency. And on that, it's hats off for the president.
How would you rate the president's relationship with the judiciary, and particularly on the aspect of access to justice, facilitating that as the head of state?
Okay, very well. First of all, I think I'll answer one, the president's 1 year in office. I think the president's 1 year in office, he has tried to bite more than probably within 1 year that he can be able to deliver, and especially on taxation, on governance issues. And, you know, we were expecting the president to be able to have a strategic time frame, that he can be able to execute his strategic initiatives on development within a given time frame, other than having everything done within 1 year. Taxation, like 5 taxes, from the housing levy to the 16 to 18% VAT to the fuel, everything seems to be skyrocketing. Because why? We are not strategic on our time frame. I would like to say on matters judiciary, we must get to a level whereby independent organs of government must be allowed to run independently. If judiciary is able to deliver justice as expected by the people of the Republic of Kenya, then the executive should be able to give support systems to the judicial systems, but not interfere in any way. The judiciary equally must not make decisions to impress the executive. So that must come very clearly going forward, how the judiciary can continue with its independence away from interference with the executive. So I would say 1 year in office, we are not yet there. I must reiterate that we are not yet there.
There are two things you've pointed out. The independence must be upheld, the independence of an institution.
Yes.
And you also say it must appear not to be making rulings that appear to be appeasing the executive.
Absolutely.
Are you alleging that that has happened? There's no independence?
We have seen it before. It has happened where you see some members of our justice systems are like, you know, trying to. Let me come to the reality. When the president came into power or into leadership, within his first year, what did we see? Actually, the first few months, the DPP, the DCI issues. The DPP actually, I want to say like 3 or 4 cabinet ministers and senior state officers in the current government were cleared. We would like to ask, even today as Kenyans, how that these people were not corrupt. And actually, looking at the history or looking at the situation and the status quo today, it's like the same people were corrupt because the same people, high possibility, those who are in the cabinet, high possibility the president will be whipping and will be sending some of them home. Some of them who were cleared by the DPP, that they had no cases of corruption. So what does that tell you? That something was wrong in terms of integrity. Now the president is about to send them home. And they are the same, some of them who are making statements out there in public that are not going in line with integrity of state officers and chapter 6 of the Constitution.
And we'll talk
so
about
that tells you very well that our judicial systems are interfered with by the executive.
We'll talk about that in a bit.
Thank you.
What you're talking about, the cabinet.
Yes.
But a quick one, because you say the judiciary cleared them, because I would assume for a person who had been prosecuted, it is the DPP who takes the request to withdraw the matter from the judiciary.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't say really it's the executive that has interfered with that matter.
Okay. The Kenyans are very bright nowadays. There is nothing to hide. The way that things were rolling out, actually, somebody has been appointed a cabinet minister, or there are some rumors that this person is an incoming cabinet minister. What do we see next in our screens? The DPP has announced, come on, we are Kenyans, and we are coming out very strongly in terms of wisdom and knowledge to be able to interpret things that are happening in this country. And for us to move forward as a nation, let me tell you, things must be brought down in black and white. Things are about covering up people because they are who they are at the top echelons of power. And then Wanjiku is suffering at the bottom. They are wondering how to make a living. This must stop.
All right.
Judiciary must be judiciary, executive must be executive, and actually the registration must be registration. Because we are looking forward to a season where most bills will be influenced by the power of the executive.
Quite an interesting one. The good luck we have here is that the Honorable Mogaka is also a lawyer, so he's able to break down some of these things for us. Because to that extent, Mheshimiwa Mogaka, the fact that you would have cases involving very powerful people being dropped all of a sudden because there's camaraderie between them and the head of state, how do you deal with that?
Thank you. But first of all, may I correct the impression the ambassador is giving that judiciary has anything to do with the terminating of cases. Prosecution of cases is by an independent office of the Director of Public Prosecution. And it is the director who prosecutes when they have evidence. And if somewhere along the line, as Justice Odunga would put it, if on the way to Damascus, the DPP sees the light and finds that there was no sufficient evidence to sustain a prosecution, it is only prudent that they withdraw the charges. But the consolations Kenyans need to have is that criminal cases never die. And I can offer or tender free legal service that if I were that accused, I would not celebrate a withdrawn case because there will be a time when it will be revisited. It would have been prudent to have these cases go the full course and so that they collapse. So contrary to the fears people have that somebody whose case has been withdrawn, they have been left scot-free, nothing can be further than the truth. And therefore, the office of the DPP is the one that is independently mandated to carry out the prosecutions. But when it comes to issues where a case of withdrawal has been presented before a judge, because judges or the judiciary and the magistracy are there to render a decision after a prosecution has made out their case and after the defense has been given their day in court. So before we get there, really, the judiciary has nothing to do with that. They would only tell you if, just like you, if you are complainant and you decided you are not pursuing your case anymore against the person you are accusing and you withdraw it, really, what does the judiciary have? There is no case before them. And therefore, let us not bash the judiciary, and we are mixing up the issue of the performance of the office of ODPP with that of the judiciary.
Okay.
And to be fair, the business of the judiciary is bring a matter before me, prosecute it, demonstrate that you have a case, and you will have your judgment.
Let me ask a quick one, because on the matter of the independence of the judiciary, and I think you've seen as a matter of concern, the camaraderie between the judiciary and the executive has been a cause of worry for some, not really in terms of being sent to have, you know, some kind of relationship, but in the sense of, for example, when the president was doing his State of the Nation address in Parliament, there were a section of lawyers who had a problem with the fact that the Chief Justice and the Deputy Chief Justice would line up to receive the president, yet these are heads of an independent organ of government, and this function is not happening within the precincts or where they operate.
It is a question of perceptions.
Okay.
One thing you cannot take away is that the president is the head of state and also commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He heads the entire republic. Granted that the republic is formed of three arms, the judiciary being one of them, headed by the Chief Justice and President of the Republic of Kenya. Let me put it like this. There are two aspects you expect of a judicial officer. There is what we call functional independence, and decisional independence. The function of the judiciary sometimes necessitates that they interface with other arms of government, like the executive, because they are the ones who administer oaths and things of that nature. So functionally, therefore, you cannot completely rule out that there is a moment that at the heads of these three arms of government will obviously find themselves together. But the independence contemplated in the separation of powers between these three arms of government is the decisional independence, that you expect that no matter the functional interface with the other arms of government, when a judicial officer sits to render a decision on a matter before them, they should do it based on nothing else but the evidence before them. And therefore, that is why I say, so far, the judiciary has performed fairly well in terms of decisional independence, and even functionally, what others would say that they have seen an unprecedented camaraderie between these arms of government. I think that is seeing too much. That is seeing too much, which which has no consequence in the functionality of the judiciary as contemplated in the Constitution.
All right, Ambassador Warenga.
Yes, please.
For one of the pre-election pledges of a president was to actually ensure that the judiciary has an autonomous budget.
Absolutely.
And that is what the Honorable Mogaka was alluding to. For a man who made this pledge and then has gone ahead to fulfill it, and then the judiciary has made several rulings that you would say had his ambitions or his vision for the country, would you say then that the man is not committed to the independence of the judiciary?
Definitely he's committed.
Okay.
He did that for the judiciary and as well as our police service. And that's a step number one towards now fulfilling the constitutional requirement of independence of institutions of government. Because you realize when these independent institutions are working independently, they are able to deliver competently. Like what you have just alluded to, the fact that during His Excellency the President's opening of Parliament, you know, there was some confusion, like you know, he's being received by the judiciary. That was quite in order. That was constitutional. I don't think there is anywhere that, you know, people could have complained or see like the judiciary is not doing the right thing. And this is what we mean by independence of the judiciary, where Parliament allows the judiciary to independently carry out its mandate without interference politically, mostly. And where we are, like where His Excellency is now moving strategically to allow now independent institutions like the judiciary to start executing their mandate independently by allowing them their budget, by allowing the police force to have their budget. But he should not do that and then come. I'm not saying that he's going behind the doors, but it should not happen, and now trying to influence or manipulate the work or the performance of the judiciary. Because unajua, if I come and give you some little money and put in your pocket, what happens? Then you will listen to everything that I tell you. So what we are talking here is about upholding the integrity of the judiciary, and I know Mother Kome and her staff are ready to ensure that the country moves on in terms of enjoying the independence of the judiciary. We want to help the judiciary. Actually, the fund is helping so much in terms of opening new judicial offices, so hail to the Independence Fund. And again, we are seeing the backlog of cases now reducing, with the judiciary enjoying the independence, even by bringing even more judicial officers into place. We are seeing now what the judiciary is able to do going forward. We look forward to much more independence and no political interference.
Right. Jacob, allow me to rest that case properly, legally speaking. It is always said, and this is the law, that the courts are not really the courtrooms. It is the judicial officers. So much so that where the judicial officer is where the court is. So much so that when others are purporting that it appeared that the judicial officers were receiving the president, actually what they were carrying out was a judicial function of swearing in the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya. And that was done in a judicial environment graced by no less than the Chief Justice. So that we have total clarity on that, so that nobody can start saying that when the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya accessed the judicial function where he was supposed to be sworn in, that was actually a judicial territory. And whatever the judicial officers did there was correctly within their mandate as judicial officers.
Let's get to where you belong, because, I mean, look at it this way. 3 independent arms of government, that is the executive, the judiciary, and parliament. At least we've been able to have a look at what the president has done when it comes to the independence of the judiciary. Now, to parliament and Ambassador Orenga.
Yes.
Do you think the independence of parliament has been upheld by this administration?
Not at all. We all know.
Not at all?
Not at all. With the numbers and with all the political party games that we've seen, left, right, and center, trying to marshal numbers. I know it's constitutional that you can't win or you can't pass bills if the government does not have majority. But now in the process of having this majority, we realize that political parties has been, coming into loggerheads with one another. But now the question is, members of parliament and the bills that are prompted at the floor of parliament, sometimes I look and listen to the way these bills are handled in parliament, and I ask myself, is it about the majority rule or is it about what will benefit the voters? So sometimes I know the government has trying to marshal the numbers in parliament, but the question is, some of the bills that has been passed in parliament, are they in favor of government or are they in the best interest of the people of Kenya? This is a question that we must ask ourselves going forward. Because as much as we talk about the majority rule and the power of numbers, I think slowly the power of numbers is failing us. And going forward, can we kindly, members of parliament and the Senate, these bills that we pass, can we ask ourselves, even if we are majority, is this bill going to benefit the people or is it going to benefit we, members of parliament, or is it going to benefit the state officers or the executive? Because there is a time when we run away from the reality that a bill can be prompted because that bill is prompted by the executive. But Wanjiko says no. A very good example, the finance bill, the controversial finance bill, was passed against the will of Wanjiko. Remember that we went through a very vigorous public participation process. But His Excellency the President said what? Wacha tutaona wale wabunge watafanya nini? That will go vote against the bill. Then in that case, what I'm talking about. Where is Wanjiku? Wanjiku, who prompted her proposals to the committee, to the finance committee, that look, we want the new government or parliament to scrap the housing levy. It was never done. The turnover tax, it was never done. The bill was passed as it was. So where is Wanjiku in parliament? Where is Wanjiku in the majority of parliament that the government has amassed itself with? That is the big question that we should ask ourselves. So I think we should be we should try to be much more objective, because if we continue the way we are doing, passing bills and then Wanjiku is left out there, yet she's the one who has employed the 299 and plus members of parliament, then you know when you blow a balloon too much, it bursts. Okay. This time, the bills are blowing hot air, if I may say. And I would say that kind of the finance bill, Wanjiku was not comfortable. And what the finance bill did, it added more pain to the already wounded people of Kenya. So, what is reversible and what can be done? Please do it so that Wanjiku can breathe life. Hatutaki balloon. We don't want the balloon to
Before we talk about balloons bursting.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Mogaka, of course you are one of the people who has been marshaled by the president to his side, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But first of all, let's talk about the allegations made by Ambassador Waringa, which obviously point towards a perception that Parliament is now an appendage of the executive. Much of the things you're doing in Parliament is bidding for the executive.
Thank you. Just like we spoke about the judiciary as an arm of government, Parliament is also an arm of government. And therefore, I want at the outset to disabuse the notion some of my colleagues peddle around that they are talking about government as if they are not in government. The legislature is one arm of government whose core business is oversighting the executive. And to that extent, all of us elected members of parliament are enjoined to oversight the executive and ensure that every decision the executive takes is in the best interest of the nation. Having said that, the rules of operation in Parliament are very simple. That before any bill is brought to Parliament, it is given to the public to give their memoranda, to give their opinion, before it is brought to the House. And once it has gone through and has come to the House, two things are expected to happen. One, every member has an opinion that they have on any particular bill. Yeah, the opinion may be individual, but when caucused into political formations, which are lawful, because in Parliament we have only two sides. There is the minority and there is the majority. Yeah, and it is all about the promoters of the bill. How have they sold the content of their bill to the members of the House? And if they have sold well, then when the bill is brought to vote, it will sail through. If no good work has been done, then obviously it will flop. And let me add this more critical aspect of this. A bill, any law, like meat, one man's meat is another's poison. There is always the perceptible aspect of it that it depends on what side of the house you are when you are looking at a certain bill or a certain government policy. And we have a government in place that was popularly elected, has a mandate to discharge, including what we agreed, giving independence to the judiciary. We all need the judiciary because a dark day will come to any of us anytime. And that is why we purpose that we agree with the president, let us have an independent judiciary. But as we say this, and as we say we are 1 year into President William Ruto's tenure in office, And as Kenyans, as we demand delivery of the pledges that were given, these pledges can only be delivered based on the government revenue that has been collected. Where is the government revenue going to be collected from? It is from Kenyans. And this is the contradiction this country must get out of. You can't, in the morning, insist on you want the pledges that were given to us during election campaigns. You want them delivered yesterday. And when you are requested now, let us all collect government revenue to deliver on these pledges, then you find it wrong. And that is where we get the dysfunctionality about this debate. Having said that, the finance bill, which people talk so much about, is not even the problem. The problem is actually on the Appropriation Act, because it is the Appropriation Act that tabulates what is it the government is going to do in any particular year, in any particular financial year. It is the needs wish. It is the needs inventory of the Republic of Kenya. There is nobody, including Ambassador here, who has questioned the items listed in the Appropriation Act
the priority
requiring to be done. And by passing the Appropriation Act, we have commanded the government to deliver on those items in the Appropriation Act. And therefore, it follows that the government must raise revenue to deliver on these items in the Appropriation Act. Yeah. And I've dared people before call any member who is saying they are against the Finance Act. And I ask them, please volunteer what you want removed from the Appropriation Act. What is it? What road? Surrender your road to be removed from the Appropriation Act so that we reduce the tax burden. There's not a single Kenyan who is on that side. So let us be honest that we have given this country a mandate. We have no problem with the Appropriation Act. If we have, let us all come back and say, let us drop the development agenda that is in the Appropriation Act so that then we can go to the Finance Act and reduce it. I don't want to say more because that act is before court.
Quite interesting because what Mheshimiwa is alluding to is that I think the criticism of Parliament has been lopsided, and that is what he's saying, without actually looking at, the bottom line. Because, like he says, you have an Appropriations Act that is priority list for government, and nobody questions the priority list. We question how the money will be raised.
But why did Parliament go ahead and pass the Finance Act if the problem was not the Finance Act, the problem was with the Appropriation Act? Because I think they could have dug deeper before passing it overwhelmingly because of political games. You remember the Finance Act attracted a lot of political attention. And it was just passed like this without considering what are the ripple effects to the people of Kenya or to our economy actually. Because as a result of passing of that bill, let me tell you, today, investors are pulling out of the Republic of Kenya.
I have a question.
Everything has gone up.
Hold on. Sorry to cut you short.
Yes, go
because
ahead.
Wakili will guide us. The Appropriations Bill and the Finance Bill almost come in Parliament at the same time. The passage is around the same time. That means then the measures you're passing on taxation are actually what you would say will be used to deliver this, what is in the Appropriations Act. So both were passed around the same time.
Then it was very necessary that we separate the two and get to know what is a priority, what reads the other, other than doing the same at the same time, and then all of a sudden we are hearing now the Finance Bill has passed and it has affected every area of the economy. And now, as we talk, the investors are pulling out of the country. As we talk right now, we are hearing of people who are even killing themselves because of the high economic status. So before Parliament take any strategic action towards passing any act into law or bill into whatever, it must first of all consider what is the impact of this bill to the people that voted them in. If they don't do that and pass the Finance Act and any other act like they did this time, we are going to get a very confused Parliament and a very confused and a very challenging moment with the Kenya Kwanza government. So it's a challenge to them. I don't know what they're gonna do because now the Finance Act is already law. It is already causing chaos and economic retrogression in the country. Development as anticipated, it has already affected actually the implementation of the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. Why? If they visualized, there's what the CS of Trade is launching every other time. Yes. How then are we going to implement? How are we going to have industries working? If the cost of manufacturing is high, the cost of energy is skyrocketing, the cost of raw materials and everything else. So whatever the finance bill did, it is not only to the people of Kenya, negatively, but even to the Kenya Kwanza government itself is feeling the negative impact.
Let me pay some bills.
Please, let us run away from politicizing bills and let us run away from politically influenced processes in government. Because the Kenya Kwanza government has a beautiful manifesto. They can deliver. The president did a very smart speech during devolution conference. I listened to that speech, and it is a very progressive speech. But now when it comes to politicize, please, President, run away from politics and be a statesman.
All right, let's pay some bills and come back. We have more. Of course, we'll talk about Parliament. Of course, continue the conversation around Parliament, but then we'll also talk about Cabinet. Is it a Cabinet pulling in different directions? Let's take a breather. We'll be back in a minute.
Visit the Nairobi International Trade Fair from 25th September to 1st October at the Jamhuri Park Showground. Come learn, network, and have lots of fun. There will be innovations, farm and dairy produce, livestock, trade and sales, technology, SMEs exhibitions, funfair, food and entertainment. All are welcome. For the gate charges, perimeter, adults 300 Kenyan shillings and children 250. Special parties, adults 250, children 200.
This week on What's in Your Kitchen, we taste taita kimanga, steamed rice and chicken adobo, courtesy of our guest cook, Dominic.
We don't put chumvi because there is, this is our cooking stick.
Okay.
Now we use...
I don't take all.
Just one piece.
Why? So you are cooking for me?
For the rest.
No, but you are cooking for me. You are not cooking for the rest. Achana na the rest. Awako.
These are the moments we live for every Friday as we catch up with the world of football.
Manchester City go in front.
With your favorite stars in rivalries like no other that keeps you on the edge of your seat. Learn a few tricks that keep you ahead of the game and spice it all with unforgettable moments on Dunda Dunda. On Saturday, you're in for another treat as we rock your weekend with all sporting disciplines, bringing you insights on what's happening behind the scenes as we share players and athlete stories, preparations, and celebrate their achievements.
Charging to the line! Is it going to be a world record? Yes, it is! She smashed it!
Whatever angle you look at, we've got you covered. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. You're watching the Prime Edition. We continue with our assessment of the government's scorecard 1 year on, and we were talking about President William Ruto's governance scorecard. So far, we've looked at the judiciary, and now we're looking at Parliament. And there appears to be a bit of disagreement between Ambassador and Mheshimiwa Mogaka on whether Parliament is really independent or not. But let's get to the crux of the matter. Mheshimiwa Mogaka, you belong to the Jubilee Party, elected on Azimiyu ticket, but now you support the government. Is it that a clawback in a way, or President William Ruto's attempt to have absolute control over Parliament?
Thank you. Yes, I was elected by the people of West Mugirango, to whom I'm grateful every other day. And I guess they were going to elect me whichever the ticket I presented. And yes, I'm the only elected member of Parliament under Jubilee in the entire Nyanza region. Yeah, and the people of West Mugirango trusted me with that mandate, and I will never let them down. And when they elected me, and my campaign was that my constituency will never be in the opposition. Yeah, we sought election on the basis that my constituency will be in government. Yeah, and then what I'm doing now is clearly within my election manifesto and the mandate that the people gave me. But fast forward. Yes, we are 28 elected members of parliament under Jubilee. And Jubilee was at the time blanketed as Azimio by its former party leader. And once elections ended and the Azimio presidential candidate was sulking about servers and election results, and we said as a party, this is not the business we need to be engaging in. The business we were elected for is to try and provide solutions for the country and help the country move forward. And that is why, as a party, we made a decision that we will be a party working with government. Watch my word, working with government, not for government. Because we are elected to make business sense out of the government agenda. And with that, we have this far assisted the government prosecute its agenda, implement its manifesto. But as I say, we admit that the Ruto administration inherited a completely dilapidated economy, an economy that had empty coffers, an economy that had a baggage of debts that had to be serviced, and our country cannot be registered as a defaulter. And that is why, in navigating out of this hole the country was dug into, it is not easy. But all said and done, the country is struggling. The first budget of the Ruto administration was passed in June. It is hardly 3 months after. And therefore, seriously speaking, it is too early to start evaluating the performance of the government of Dr. William Ruto, because it is, practically speaking, 3 months into its first budget. And its first budget was based, as I said, on the demands the Kenyans have placed on him based on his election pledges. Everybody wants their election pledge fulfilled like yesterday. And therefore, the formulation of the Finance Act was in answer of the people, because the people's voice is God's voice, and therefore the design of the finance bill, everybody wants their thing today, and therefore the takeoff had to be a little painful as it looks, because that is the only way to put the country on the trajectory of recovery. And one of the ways to mitigate this high taxation and cost of living is through the implementation of the aggregation and industrial parks in every county. So that instead of being an agricultural country carrying produce to Mombasa, some of which never get to the destination fresh, the country is poised to start processing its produce and exporting value-added products that will generate foreign exchange and heal the quagmire the dollar is facing at the moment, because the dollar is being beaten because the fruits of the Finance Act 2023 the fruits have not come. But we thank God that the earlier decisions to bring fertilizer, because the country swore in its fifth president after a very long spell of drought that had already destroyed people's earnings. And it was worsened because people never went to the farm anyway. Walikuwa wanafanya campaign, watu walikuwa wanajota za campaign, so there was literally no work a year before election, and the drought also had hit the country so hard. So I know that the country is hard hit. Admittedly, it is hard hit, and that is as it would be, because even the fuel prices you are talking about is a global phenomena, yeah, and that global phenomena accentuated by the exchange rate, the shilling vis-a-vis dollar, is very bad. Therefore, we are paying double loss. But all is not lost, because if you look at those who are having export earnings, like the tea sector, they are getting a boom, because whereas we are hurting because we are importing oil at a dollar with a very high exchange rate, the tea farmers and those who are earning export earnings are smiling all the way to the bank. So this thing needs to be balanced, and that is why as the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza plays out, as these aggregation and industrial parks start exporting things out of this country and dollar flows start coming in, you will now start realizing the true fruits of the Kenya Kwanza grand plan to recover Kenya and take it to the ranks of Singapore.
All right. As you respond to some of the issues raised there by Honorable Mogaka, we've seen governments, particularly in the US, almost on a near collapse or near shutdown because the president has no control over Congress, for example. Even in Kenya between 2007 and 2008, we almost had a near paralysis with the government of the Republic of Kenya because the president lacked a majority of members of parliament to push through his bills or through his agenda. Is it possible then to be a president leading a nation where you don't have control over parliament, so much so that if they wake up today and decide to frustrate you, then that's it?
I must say yes and no. Number one, it doesn't mean because you don't have majority, you cannot govern in the right way as a president of any nation. I'm not sure that, although that cuts across probably the global constitutions, which provide for majority rule as the way to rule governments. But I also want to believe that there is a way a minority can carry the day by giving what is factual, what is real, what is right, and what is truthful. Unfortunately, constitutions around the world, including the Constitution of Kenya, provides for majority rule, provides that any government in power must have the majority in parliament so that they can be able to garner more votes in terms of passing of bills. I must say this to His Excellency the President, now narrowing down to what you have asked, that he can be able to, now that we cannot change the Constitution right now, we have to ride on the majority rule. But can we consider whatever we call the majority rule, is it in the best interest of the people of Kenya, or is it in the best interest of government? Because there are two things here. Why do we have parliament? Why do we have government? We have a government so that we can be able to create a numbering and conducive environment for the people of Kenya to live in their country. So, whatever decisions comes out of the majority in parliament, which happens to be part of government, must be able to be in the best interest of the people who brought these people, or the people they represent, in simple terms. But when we see the people of Kenya buying oil yesterday in Dar es Salaam, in Arusha, is it Arusha? Just here in Namanga, what does that tell you? After a parliament having majority, passing a bill, negating the best interest of the people in terms of affordable fuel, affordable energy, affordable lifestyle, you see? So what I say is that the president or the executive can prompt a bill, but within the bill, because the buck stops with the president, actually the president has powers to send the bill back to parliament if the bill is not in the best interest of Adarain hustlers.
It's no longer a bill, it's actually an act.
It's an act by them, If it is not in the best interest of hustlers, I'm saying hustlers because That was his campaign, you know. So if it is not in the best interest of hustlers, even if it was passed by the majority, Your Excellency, tafadhali rudisha bunge so that they can rediscuss it. And of course, when the president is sending that bill back to that act into Parliament, he usually gives some comments. So do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so that the people of Kenya can benefit. That means the president can be able to manage a government well, even if he has majority who pass.
Let me ask you a quick one, because you are actually competing to become the president of the Republic of Kenya in 2022.
Correct.
And I'm sure you're making your own.
All right.
Yeah, you're making your promises.
Yes.
I'm not talking about the other one. I'm talking about the one that has just passed.
Yes.
You are also angling to become president.
Absolutely.
And you had your own promises that you were making.
Yes.
To borrow from Mheshimiwa Mogaka's words, the president inherited a dilapidated economy. And the deputy president has reminded us about that every single day.
Yes.
So imagine you became the president. You had your own promises, and you're confronted with a situation like what confronted the president. What would you have done if you became president?
In terms of, are you relating that to the majority in Parliament? Or?
Not majority in Parliament.
Thank you very much.
About the economic situation.
Yes, definitely.
And you had your own promises. What would you have done?
Yes, thank you. What I would have done, first of all, I would have strategized a smart development agenda. A smart means in strategic management. S means specific. M means measurable. A means achievable, achievable. Then R means realistic, realistic development agenda, and then within a given time frame. But when we see the president and his government employing taxation within 1 year, squeezing Kenyans from housing levy to 16 to 18% to the fuel levy to everything within 1 year, where is his strategic planning team? Because his strategic planning team or advisory team should be able to tell him, Your Excellency, for this financial year, we are going to implement this taxation. Then, come next financial year, we are going to implement this. But having everything within 1 financial year, of course, that will bring a collapse of an economy. The pain already Kenyans are going through, high possibility will lead to the collapse of this economy. And I must also say that the same World Bank, actually, that sometimes when His Excellency came in and he was under pressure to be able to increase the VAT of some fuel products from 8 to 16%, which actually he did. And that's why actually part of the cost of fuel is very, very high. The same World Bank recently gave an advisory, and I would say that the statement was like, whatever taxation the government is trying to put into every other sector right now, will they be bringing gain to the country, or will they bring us a corrupt economy?
It is a primary question.
Yes.
I have about 3 minutes before I wind up, because my time is really gone, and I want us to deal with the issues of cabinet. There's so much going around about cabinet and senior officials appointed by President William Ruto. And I think the question that we ask tonight, Mheshimiwa Mogaka, as a person working with the government, as you rightly said, is it time to crack the whip? Is it time for the president now to crack the whip?
I'm not an advisor to the president. I can only give my observation as Parliament, as a member of Parliament for West Mugirango. The cabinet that was put in office, just like the president, is now getting into dealing with the first budget of the Kenya Kwanza government. And granted, there was a learning curve as they were grappling with understanding the extent to which their portfolios had sunk and what strategy to employ to be able to come above board. I must admit, many of them have no prior public service experience, and therefore it is both an advantage and disadvantage. Because it's an advantage because they come in fresh, disabused of those nuances in public service, but it's also a challenge because there's a learning curve where they arrive and they see everybody around as an enemy and they think they are a non-performer. So that learning curve is a cost in management that an organization must pay to effect the change that is being sought. So yes, some of them may have completely missed out the script, but as a team, we really have to continue encouraging them. At least with President William Ruto, we are seeing cabinet meetings. And therefore, there is a sense of collective responsibility emerging because whatever is done by government arises out of cabinet papers, cabinet decisions that each of them is required to take responsibility. And I must commend the president because he has already sent signals that cabinet is supposed to advise him. And if he happens to know more about one cabinet portfolio than the holder of that portfolio, then that person has no business being there. And that was a very positive management signal that you are either in control or you need to be thrown out of the ring. And therefore, the president must take a retreat 1 year later. When he does his performance evaluation, he must look at which portfolio has met his expectation, dictated by what pledges they gave to the Republic. And if he finds that there are members of cabinet that are not pushing in the same direction or that are not fast enough to answer the public expectations, then he has a duty to do a reshuffle or to request some of those members to look for something else to do. But management must continue, just like a team that has been fielded. When it is not scoring, the coach must come back and try another player and try another player. So we look forward to the president continuously evaluating his cabinet team and continuously reorganizing them, continuously thinking of what new players he can introduce into the game and who he can redeploy. Because human capital is the most valuable thing. A country and a government can only go as far as its cabinet can take it. And if the cabinet is clueless, then certainly we are toying with disaster.
Absolutely. Is it time to crack the whip? And I mean,
at least he has agreed it's Kioria's cabinet, and the president should have done it yesterday. Kenya has a wonderful image out there, at the continental level and globally. So when we see our cabinet ministers throwing words at each other, you even feel ashamed to be part of that country. So going forward, one, the president must crack a whip. Actually, it started when he said, you remember some cabinet ministers came late in his meeting. And you remember Moi's time, Moi never gave a damn. You just go home. So I must say that they have underperformed. And then number two, integrity issues. What we can see on our screens, cabinet ministers throwing words at each other. And even actually, I would say, the way they are responding to the people of Kenya, like dig your own wells, that shouldn't come from a cabinet minister. So I want to believe that the president will crack a whip immediately. And then after cracking the whip, what does he do? He must be guided by Chapter 6 of the Constitution in terms of the next cabinet he's going to bring on board. Let him be guided by one, integrity, number two, competence, number three, meritocracy, and number four, moral standing of that particular person. Otherwise, going forward, we look forward to our Mama wa Taifa administration 2027, the 60th president of the Republic of Kenya. Here we are. Asanteni sana.
The IBC has not even...
No worries.
There's not even an IBC.
No, they'll come. First of all, you have to believe in yourself before the systems come.
All right, your closing remarks.
My closing remarks are to tell Kenyans that transition is sometimes challenging and change is costly. Kenya is undergoing a transitional change, both in economy and also in management of public affairs. And the learning curve is normal, and the pain of learning is that gari itagongwa, watu wakijifundisha gari itagongwa hapa na pale. But I want to give hope that as an elected member of parliament, I will not be coming to public fora to lament with the people of Kenya, because I have a duty to be a part of the solution this country needs, and I will stand strong, encourage the government, advise the government. Where they are bringing bills that are progressive, we shall work with them, and where they are bringing bills that are challenging, we will sell and propose appropriate amendments to ensure that we improve on that and move forward. But I can't sit, I can't exit before I thank my people of West Mugirango. By the way, I invite you there because I set out to do a model constituency. Now, all my primary schools and secondary schools, our children are going to be walking on tiles. I've completely changed the education infrastructure because I want future professors, doctors, engineers, and lawyers like Dunstan Omari to come from my constituency. So make a moment, and Madam President, make a moment and visit us in West Mugirango. Send people there to benchmark. And I'm telling the people of West Mugirango, hiyo ni mwanzo tu, that is what you deserve.
Thank you very much. Asante sana. 30 seconds for your closing remarks.
People of Kenya, yes we can. Your Excellency the President, you still have time to redeem your government. I believe that you have 4 years, kindly. Let's be guided by. Also, sio ile mambo matatu yako. Now we are bringing mambo matatu: competence, meritocracy, and integrity in government. If you want to move forward, score better in the next coming year of government, kindly, meritocracy, integrity, and competence. And together we can with the 6th. Asante sana.
That is a sure promise that she will be facing the president in the upcoming elections.
Definitely.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Orenga. Thank you very much, Mheshimiwa Mogaka, for joining us tonight. It's been an incisive conversation. This is where we put an end to Prime Edition. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Thanks to Byron Abuli, our sign language interpreter. Have yourself a good night. God bless.
The Senate will hold its sittings dubbed Senate Mashinani to